I'm Danielle, and I'm the marketing manager for CollectiveSun. Thank you for coming into our collaborative webinar with the Interfaith Solar Campaign and CollectiveSun. We'll be sharing key insights to help you understand how to make solar attainable for your organization. You'll be hearing from these three amazing humans throughout the webinar, and we'll be having a contact information for you near the end of the webinar. I'm delighted to present our Director of Sales for CollectiveSun, Nicole Withrow, to start us off on the Interfaith Solar Campaign and CollectiveSun webinar. Nicole comes with an extensive 25 years experience in managing sales, overseeing contracts, and ensuring project completion. Her qualifications are noteworthy, and it's her dedication to nonprofit organizations that truly stands out. She has guided countless organizations towards solar solutions to date. Nicole, how's everything going with you?
You know what, Danielle? I'm fantastic. Thank you for asking. And thank you for kicking us off today, by the way. Hello, everyone. And before we get to the main topic of conversation, I do want to remind everyone that this webinar is for educational purposes only and does not constitute legal or tax advice. In today's webinar, we're going to hear from our friends and colleagues at Interfaith Solar Campaign, who will share the story of their vital work, their passionate pursuit of solar for faith communities, and you'll get a chance to learn more about their exciting climate movement that they're starting. We're going to discuss some common obstacles to going solar and how to overcome them. We'll learn about funding solutions available through CollectiveSun, and then we'll open it up for Q&A and just hear what questions folks have. As we get started today, it is my sincere pleasure to introduce John Pitney with Interfaith Solar Campaign. John oversees outreach efforts to faith communities. As a retired United Methodist minister, he has spent numerous years as an educator and advocate for climate justice. His conviction lies in the influential role that congregations can play in addressing environmental challenges. John, together with his wife Debbie, is dedicated to actively combating the climate crisis, motivated by the desire to ensure they never have to explain to their grandchildren why more wasn't done to tackle this urgent issue in the crucial moments. As someone who has the distinct pleasure of working with John on a regular basis, I can tell you that I enjoy every opportunity I have to work with him and to see him in action. John truly wears his passion and conviction for renewable energy and climate justice on his sleeve and is a true living, breathing example of faith in action. Now, today's conversation is a serious one, so you might not get to see the side of John that displays his stellar sense of humor, but I got to tell you, he keeps all of us on our toes with that sense of humor. So on that note, hopefully I've made John blush just a little, but without further ado, John Pitney, would you be so kind as to kick off today's conversation on faith communities going solar together?
Absolutely. Thank you, Nicole. Well, I guess I am blushing and I have to read off my sleeve now, apparently. Yes, I'm John Pitney, and I'm retired United Methodist minister here in Oregon. I am a grandfather, and with my good friend, Lou Stagnito, I co-direct what we call the Interfaith Solar Campaign. We like to say many paths, one sacred earth. Anyway, it seemed important to start off the webinar with a little bit about why we do this. And that's easy for me. All I have to do is look into the dark brown eyes of our 5-year-old grandson, Jackson. The other day, my wife and I were driving him back to our house in our Chevy Bolt EV. And from the back seat, he asked, Grandpa, what do solar panels do? Well, we had this impromptu webinar, about sun's rays tickling the silicon wafers inside the panel and making electricity. It's kind of magic, It's almost like the charge of the divine. Anyway, I realized that our grandson Jackson is immersed in this new thing, this new energy economy. If I look back through my list of extended family, I see that we have among us 10 solar homes, and we drive 8 EVs. more importantly, for our subject today, our United Methodist Church in Bend, Oregon, and the church that Jackson attends with his parents, the Unitarian Church, both churches have major solar installations on their roof. So he is immersed in this new energy economy, and our grandchildren are paying attention. And that's why I have decided to spend so much time inviting congregations to join the campaign. When our neighborhoods see solar panels on the roofs or ground mounted on the properties of faith communities, you know, they can say, oh, look, this church, this mosque, this synagogue, this faith community cares about God's holy earth. And they care about making a difference for all of Earth's grandchildren and everything that moves and breathes. And of course, the challenges are horrific. Nobody would question that. But I like to say, I think because the challenges are so stiff, that this also is one of the greatest opportunities that humanity on this earth has ever had to kind of rise up and become the humankind that we were created in God's image to be. I often get the question as we move around among communities of faith. So many of us feel powerless, and we say, so what can one person do? There's an easy answer to that, and we repeat that to ourselves, each other a lot. Stop being one person. And that's what we're really doing with the solar campaign. We love to see single congregations come to us wanting help to get solar done. We get even more excited, though, when we can talk to leaders of denominations, synods, conferences, you know, faith networks, so we can work with groups of congregations all at one time and utilize the leadership of those. And as we work with them, we realize that there are also internal funding resources that denominations and networks and groups of churches have. What we did when we started the Interfaith Solar Campaign, one of the first partnerships we created was with the Oregon-Idaho Conference of the United Methodist Church. We simply started by surveying all 130 of their church properties in the state of Oregon. Their leadership helped us identify the ones from that list that were seemed most worth pursuing, and we started with a pilot group of them, and we moved forward. And today, now we're working with presbyteries of the Presbyterian Church, the Conference of United Churches of Christ, and a network of synagogues across Oregon and Washington. So that really makes it exciting. And we feel like we're building a movement. We're working and using the power of faith communities, which we absolutely believe in. And so I am so happy to be with you here today and share this story. With that, I want to introduce my good friend, Lou Stagnito. Lou and I bumped into each other about 3 years ago, working on similar things, and decided we had a common vision. Lou had retired from over 20 years working in healthcare industry and promoting that vision, and came into retirement looking to live out more of his passion to help us create a livable earth. So working with Lou has been a pleasure, and take it away, Lou.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, John and Nicole, for that introduction. Um, I'd like to tell my partner that I, even though I have retired, I really haven't. If this is what retirement looks like, it feels a lot like working on a regular basis. But what's different is the passion that all of us on this effort share to do something really significant to work with faith communities. So I am here to talk to you a little bit about how we get to doing solar in churches and what it really takes. So I want to just start off by saying that this Interfaith Solar Campaign really was just established to get faith-based communities to take a really tangible step in reducing their individual carbon emissions from their congregation, from their house of worship. And we started reaching out to a number of these congregations that we thought would be good candidates for solar. And along the way, we learned a lot of lessons that we want to partly share with you, because what we kept finding is why houses of worship, faith communities, really weren't able to make solar happen. And as we learned more about that, we honed our way of working with them. And we wanted to really share that with you, as those of you who are on this call who are curious about going solar will have a little bit more of an idea about how we actually were able to get churches to go solar, and how you might convert your congregation, your faith community, into a solar or based building. So where this has gone now, after about 3 years of doing this work, we've really decided that what we are doing is building a movement. And that movement is about taking faith-based communities, the experience that those that already have solar and those that want to go solar, and bringing those together into a really strong force that is really transforming the energy economy in this country. And so this movement continues to grow, and we're reaching out to all of you today to ask for your help in making this happen and to show you really what it takes to make it happen. So I'm going to go on to my next slide. So what we found through our work was that there are two consistent obstacles that inhibit faith communities from going to solar. And I think this is important for those of you who are solar contractors on this call, and those of you that work in or that participate with the congregation. These are the things that we consistently saw getting in the way. So the first one is financing. How do we pay for a solar array for our building? And what we discovered pretty early on is that we were talking to creation, care, justice committee members from a church or a house of worship, a pastor or the clerical lead in these churches or in these houses of worship. And what consistently came up was, if they made the effort to go from the idea stage to actually getting a bid for solar, they experienced sticker shock. Like, we didn't realize how much this really would cost. And it really stopped a lot from continuing that process. So we noticed that was a real dynamic. And we wanted to make sure to help get over that big obstacle. The other second obstacle that we really found was that these groups didn't really know how to go about getting a solar array. I like to joke that we're not at that point in our development as a country where you can get online with Amazon and push a button, and the next thing you know, the drone's delivering the solar panels to your roof. We're just not there, and that's probably not going to happen. So it is a sophisticated process, but it's one that can be taken up with some help. And so as we were putting this campaign together, we really realized that what we can do as volunteers, and John and I are volunteers, is to bring the various resources together to make a solar array happen on a particular house of worship. And so it takes financing, it takes expertise around doing a construction project, for example. It also takes the commitment of those within a congregation to make this happen, to make a decision as a group. And so we want to talk to you a little bit about how you might do that. We really see ourselves as the how-to for this work. So let me continue by just going, so let's talk about the how, because that's what really gets in the way. So the first thing is, if you're a congregation of people who want to see this happen, let's first look to the various roofs on buildings within your campus, if you will. And we need to find a couple of key things about that roof. First, does it have sufficient life to host solar panels that likely are going to work for 25 to 30 years? And if you want to start out this journey by doing that first assessment of, going back and finding the paperwork, or talking to the building manager, or looking at getting an estimate of when that roof was actually put on, you really need to have a roof with sufficient life to start this process. So that's the first thing to do, is to evaluate, do we have a roof that has sufficient life? And then the next part is, how is that roof oriented? Solar panels really need south and west facing roof space. So sometimes houses of worship have roofs that are oriented directly south, and that is a great option then. Some don't have their chapel facing that way, but maybe a auditorium or a school building or some other building within their campus that the solar panels could live on and point to the south and the west. And so that was the other key thing that we needed to find out. Is your roof oriented? So think about that as your next step. And then the third piece of that is, do we have sufficient folks within our congregation who want to make this happen, who are willing to participate? Now, that's one of the things that we kept running into, is not having sufficient leadership understanding of the process to make this happen. And so when we advise groups about doing this work, we really need to have representation from that group in order to make this happen. So let's start by this concept of how you make this all work, and let's review a couple of things that I've said. So the first thing is, do you have a good roof? A roof with sufficient life in it to host panels for 25 to 30 years. Secondly, does it face south and west? Is it a good location to take advantage of the sun's light in order to produce the maximum amount of electricity that those panels are geared to do? Sometimes we run into great situations, but there's a tree that's hanging out there, and we're not into cutting down trees. Sometimes we ask congregations to prune their trees to provide sufficient light, but is that another obstacle? And if not, we're well on the path with those three things. And then finally, it's really important to know what kind of electricity costs you are incurring as a congregation. What are those costs, and what's going to happen in the future? Here in Oregon, we have pretty low electricity costs, largely because of the Bonneville Dam that generates a lot of electricity for us. But as supply for fossil fuel becomes less and less, the cost of electricity is going up. And we know in our region that in 2024, electricity costs are going up by 17% in many parts of the state. That's a significant bump, and we can surmise that that's going to keep happening, again, as we use less and less fossil fuels. So let's just say you've taken a look at all four of those things, and you want to go forward with this, and we would really encourage you to, if you meet all of those criteria. So then let's go back to pulling your team together. What we have found that works best is when we have representation from a variety of parts of that congregation. So for example, we really want to make sure the leader of your congregation, the pastor, the clerical person, is on board. and we need him or her to be part of this. And then also we would encourage you to find other people within your congregation who could be a decision maker and who has a perspective that will be beneficial. So for example, we really encourage folks to find somebody on their finance team, somebody who's looking at the books, helping to understand where spending is happening. Make sure that person or persons is on your team. The next thing you want to do is find somebody who's on building management, someone who cares for the building, the person that knows maybe where the electricity box is, where the age of the roof, the history of changes with the building. It's really important to have somebody like that who can provide that perspective and understands. And then someone from your governing body. We oftentimes run into congregations that have boards of trustees or some other governing body, and we need to have those folks on the committee looking at this. And then finally, we want you to evaluate what kind of resources might you bring to this equation. Is there a reserve? Do you have access to funding? Can you fundraise from your group? Those are the kinds of things that we will need to know in order to go forward here. So those are the key pieces. And let me just say about going solar, assuming that you take those steps, the outcome of that means that your congregation is now less dependent on fossil fuels. Hopefully not dependent at all, but we also know that heating is a key issue, and you may still be relying on fossil fuels for your heating, but for your electricity, you can be significantly reducing your carbon footprint, the carbon emissions that come from your buildings, and more importantly, you are contributing to the solution rather than being part of the problem. Now, we understand from our work that buildings and congregations oftentimes don't meet all those criteria. The roof may be too old and could be very expensive to replace. You may not have the orientation to the sun that's needed. But there are ways still to support this effort to build a movement of faith communities who are geared toward working on transforming the energy economy. And we want you to participate that way if solar doesn't work for you. So supporting this effort that we are engaged in would be really helpful. We have a way to help support congregations that maybe can't meet the financial demands of this, and we rely on congregations that can't go solar to support those that can. So we just like to consider, can I, as a member of a congregation who wants to see solar, can I make it happen with my congregation, or can I support the efforts of those who can't make it? So just in summary, get your team together if you want to do this. It's pretty simple to identify the folks that would be good for this. Engage with us. We really are oriented to helping you hold your hand through this process. We will help you understand what's needed and how to navigate through solar bids and everything that you need to make this work. And then the next point here is making a decision. We find in our research that sometimes solar contractors don't really want to work with congregations because there are a lot of folks who have to say yes, as opposed to the owner of a business who he or she would say yes, or a household that has a smaller number of people to make that decision. But make a decision. We are in a climate emergency. Each of you who have an opportunity to go solar can help mitigate the worst effects of climate change. You can help us build this movement, but it's time to make a decision. It's time to go forward, and we really encourage you to do that. And then the final point, I'm going to hand this back to John, is tell the story. This is an important story to be told. We want to influence other congregations in your community. We want to influence your congregants to also take tangible climate action. And putting solar on your roof, it's like putting a huge sign saying, we're walking the talk. And we want to help you tell that story. We want to help you influence others to get there. So with that, John, I'm going to pass this back to you and let you speak to telling the story a little bit more.
Thanks, Lou. Oh my gosh. We've been working in response to the climate emergency for a long time. There is so much bad news out there. Telling the story helps infiltrate some good news because there is much good news. We all have worked with single congregations for a couple of decades, helping them install solar. Every once in a while I go and I check into their websites and it's like, what? There's no pictures of solar. There's no celebration that this is a part of the ministry or the vision of that church. And they could be doing so much to inspire those in their neighborhoods, in their denominations or faith networks. One of the inspirations for us, as we were thinking about creating the Interfaith Solar Campaign, was a group of 6 churches in Salem, Oregon, who already were working together as kind of a cooperative parish. And they decided together that they would install solar on 5 of those 6 churches together. They put together the funding together. They put together the campaign together. And as of a couple of years ago, 5 of those 6 churches have solar on their buildings. And that was really inspiring to us, a group of congregations coordinating together. And that vision quickly broadened for us into working with denominations and conferences and synods and networks of synagogues and so on. So, when Lou was talking about that, about the congregational team, one important person on that congregational team is the one with the camera and the phone and equipment for taking videos and telling that story. So we are committed to that. We really are building a movement. We are encouraging not only those congregations who want to have solar and those conferences who want to work with solar to register on the website and sign up and join us. We also want congregations who already have solar to tell us their story so we can get it up on the website so that we can help congregations spread that word among their networks and and give us a piece of great news. I think that's what I have to say about telling the story.
Yeah.
Nicole, are you going now?
I would love to go next, but I got to say thank you to both you, John and Lou, for all that great information. I think that it's, I think for some folks listening today, that had to be like such a wonderful thing to hear, that there's somewhere to get support through that process, because it can be very overwhelming. I just want to say again, what a pleasure it is to be here today talking with all of you about the journey to solar for communities of faith. For anybody that's not familiar with CollectiveSun, we are a solar finance company dedicated to serving communities of faith and other nonprofits nationwide. For the past decade plus, we've been helping nonprofits navigate their solar journey and connecting them with financing solutions designed to fit the unique needs of their organizations. In just the past 6 years, we've partnered with over 200 nonprofit organizations nationwide on their solar financing, and over 50% of those projects have been with communities of faith. This experience has made us very familiar with the challenges faith communities face going solar, as well as the challenges of the solar installation process itself. CollectiveSun started with a pretty straightforward mission, just a small mission, very modest, to help every nonprofit in the country go solar. That's it, nothing big. So, I gotta say, when John and Lou from Interfaith Solar Campaign reached out to us, gosh, it feels like ages ago at this point, Well, when they reached out to talk about opportunities for solar financing for churches that they were working with, it seemed only fitting that they had just a really modest goal as well. You know, they just wanted to start an interfaith climate movement. That's all. Very, very perfect pairing of our two organizations. And please pardon the turn of phrase, but it really did seem like a match made in heaven. And since then, our groups have been working together to create solar financing solutions and provide support to congregations that are exploring solar. And our two groups complement the natural skill sets of the other. I hope that many of you will be inspired by their work and their mission and join their efforts as potentially a volunteer, or perhaps you're inspired to replicate their efforts in your area. And in so doing, creating a new resource for communities of faith in your region. Whatever it might be, you won't be doing it alone. And that always changes the story significantly. So I just want to put that out there. We have been really fortunate to partner with groups like Interfaith Solar Campaign that are like-minded and also recognize the value in aligning oneself with others on a similar path and to collaborate wherever there's an opportunity to do more good when you do it together. All right, let's see here. So the passing of the Inflation Reduction Act, I'm sure most of you have heard about this exciting news. It's brought a lot of change to the solar and solar finance industries, as well as more options and more information for communities of faith and other nonprofits going solar to make sense of. But at CollectiveSun, our role, it remains the same, and that's to help nonprofits navigate their solar journey and to connect them with financing solutions that fit the unique needs of their organizations. Beyond all of that, solar for nonprofits is our passion. This is what we're here for, ensuring that nonprofits and tax-exempt organizations, operate sustainably, both fiscally and environmentally, is really fundamental to who we are as an organization. Because we truly believe that when organizations are able to tap the power of solar energy, it frees them up to focus on what they do best, providing those essential programming and services to their communities. So I'm just going to show off a little bit the journey to solar. This is a beautiful map. All those red dots represent CollectiveSun projects across the country. Really have no purpose for showing that other than we're very proud of these projects. But when you look at that map of the United States, you know, Lou and John talked about what this process of getting started with solar can look like for congregations. And I just want to mention that no matter where you are on this map of this big, beautiful country of ours, this journey to solar, that process of exploring solar, the mechanics of exploring it and exploring financing solutions is really going to look pretty similar regardless of where you're located. I often kind of refer to the list of things that Lou was going through as that solar to-do list. And I just want to recap that solar to-do list, you know, identifying your solar team or committee, discussing the logistics of where a solar array could potentially be placed on your building or property, gathering your energy bills, identifying any cash reserves or donations that you intend to contribute to the project, getting all that stuff together. Once you get there, now you're ready to evaluate funding options for your solar system to kind of determine what resonates with the internal culture and the resources of your congregation. So as you prepare to explore those options, it's good to understand what will impact your solar savings. So here are a couple of points to keep in mind. Solar savings is impacted by what you pay your utility company for energy and the cost installers in your region charge to install solar. I feel pretty confident saying that we all, no matter where we are in the country, when we look at our electric bill, we say, oh, this is really expensive. I haven't heard anybody yet say, gosh, I really feel like my utility should charge me more for electricity. So I'm just going to stick with that. And it's expensive, and it doesn't matter if you're in San Diego, California, if you are in Oregon, and if you're in Louisville, Kentucky. That really is a huge swing from region to region of where those costs are, but it always feels like too much. And switching to solar, you know, it checks those social boxes of reducing your carbon footprint, supporting creation care theology. You guys are already aware of this, but it also can create some cost savings that you can put back into the work that you're doing in your community. So the cost to install solar is one other aspect that can impact your solar savings. So from region to region, the cost to install solar can look a little different. We have robust solar markets in some parts of the country that have lots of competition, and it drives down prices, while areas that are a little slower to adopt solar, as well as some rural areas where there's quite a distance that installer has to travel to get to you for your solar installation, you might see some higher costs associated with your installation in those markets. I know that everyone on today's call is united in their commitment to caring for the planet and to doing their respective part to reverse the climate emergency we find ourselves in. But I mention these things so that folks remember to level set expectations around solar being a cash cow of a revenue stream, if you will. And just know that in areas where there is a higher cost to install solar, and maybe that's combined with lower energy costs relative to other parts of the country, it just means that maybe there's a need to layer in grants or donations so that we can bring the economics in line and make sure that that purchase is, it makes sense fiscally for your congregation. I'm not trying to discourage anyone. I just want everyone to be aware ahead of time so that we can manage those expectations and get you motivated and excited to find a solution that works for your congregation. All right. Again, hope I didn't scare anybody away with that, but the most important item on everyone's solar to-do list is to identify resources and resource partners, like our friends and colleagues at Interfaith Solar Campaign, like our team at CollectiveSun. This is really a pivotal step in your solar journey, whether it's us, Interfaith Solar Campaign, Solar United Neighbors. There are so many resources out there. I encourage you to reach out, check in with those folks, and get the help that you need. We are going to share these links. I've also included links to the webinar series that we put together for folks that are leaning towards purchasing solar with cash reserves or donations from your congregants. Maybe you've got grant funds to pay for the system. You might want to get yourself armed with resources on direct pay, any of those bonus adders that are available under the Inflation Reduction Act, so that you are ready to lead your congregation through that process. Again, this is recorded content and just kind of best practice. Anytime you watch anything on the Inflation Reduction Act or tax benefits of any kind, whether it's from us or another party, please check the air date on that content and always look to the actual Treasury guidance for the final word. All right, now the most exciting part, my favorite part of this conversation, solutions. The first solution I want to talk about today is the Sun for All Solar Loan. It's designed by nonprofit professionals rather than banks. The loan features a payment holiday during construction. In plain English, that just means no payments while the system's being built. The goal there to avoid congregations having to make a payment for their electric bill and a loan payment at the same time. And then there's no prepayment penalty, no collateral beyond the solar equipment itself. That means no personal guarantees, no property as collateral on the loan. So these are things that folks often get pretty excited about. We designed a loan for organizations that intend to take advantage of direct pay. So by its very design, the Sun for All Solar Loan is what we refer to as direct pay ready. Now, what does that mean for you? It means that we provide 100% of the installation costs. You've got a significant direct pay tax rebate, but that is coming at a future date. And I have not met any installers yet who are likely to accept an IOU while you wait for that rebate to come in. So you need a loan that provides 100% of your installation cost to fund that system installation. The Sun for All Solar Loan achieves that by providing gap or short-term financing for the anticipated rebate amount, the amount you anticipate receiving through direct pay, long-term financing for the remaining installation costs, and we roll that all into one simple loan with a set payment. When you do receive that rebate, you remit that to us to pay down the loan. The term length for the Sun for All Solar Loan is up to 10 years, and currently interest rates for communities of faith are at 8.99%. When you choose a loan or cash reserves, your organization will own the equipment, be responsible for negotiating your contract with your solar installer, provide your own project management, and be responsible for the timely filing of all associated direct pay tax filings. All right, now that we've talked about the loan, let's talk about the lease. We refer to the lease as an easy button solution for a reason. So with the lease, we do the heavy lifting to secure affordable financing and make sure the project is built properly. We don't get paid until the project is built and generating savings for your congregation. So when you choose the Sun for All Solar lease, we're going to select and vet a qualified solar installer, handle the solar installer contract negotiations and management, take care of construction management, including the review and verification of contractor milestones. We're going to secure lien waiver and releases to protect you against construction liens. We're going to manage construction payments to contractors, subcontractors, and materials providers. There are no lease payments due until the system is fully installed and generating savings. There are no application fees, setup fees, or fees of any kind. There's no hassle for your community of faith needing to become informed on direct pay or dealing with tax credits, understanding direct pay tax filings, or any IRS filings associated with the solar system. The lease has a 20-year term with a simple monthly lease payment. Early buyout options are available for those that are interested. Full operations and maintenance are included. So unlike the loan, the lease removes the project development and management burden from the church and places it on us, along with the long-term ownership risks and responsibilities and tax filing requirements. So now that you've heard these two solutions, the loan and the lease from Sun for All, how would you go about deciding which option is the best fit for you? And we've kind of laid out that process a little bit just to get you started. Of course, there's going to be a much greater and in-depth conversation that you guys will have internally, but we suggest starting the conversation with 3 practical questions. Do you have in-house construction management expertise? For some of you, the answer to that is yes. And for many nonprofits, you're functioning with a volunteer staff that's already bandwidth constrained, and you simply do not have construction management expertise, let alone the time to manage the project installation. Are you comfortable bearing construction risk? That is going to be a question only you guys can answer for yourselves. This is a construction project and things can go wrong from time to time. So is your congregation prepared to navigate that and to bear that risk? Are you comfortable bearing long-term ownership risks? If you purchase the system directly, your congregation bears the risk of ownership and is responsible for operations and maintenance costs. When you lease the system, CollectiveSun Foundation bears the risk of ownership and is responsible for operations and maintenance costs. I do want to mention that there are, of course, additional considerations when you're comparing a direct purchase with a lease option. This is not an apples to apples comparison. It's more akin to, do we buy a lawnmower and mow the lawn ourselves, kind of a DIY approach, or do we hire a landscaper and let an expert do the work for us? That easy button approach. No one's going to know better than you which solution is the right fit for your organization. Solar financing for communities of faith is most definitely not a one-size-fits-all conversation, and no singular solution is going to fit every congregation. And with that said, the woman who speaks 100 miles an hour takes a deep breath. It is time to move into the Q&A portion of this presentation. So I'm going to just rearrange things here real quickly on my screen, pardon me. And let's see here. Thanks for bearing with me. All right. So if we look at, so was the church able to take advantage of the tax credits as a nonprofit? So a church, any nonprofit that is organized as a 501c, fill in the blank with a number, you're all able to monetize those tax benefits through direct pay. I highly recommend going through the links that we are going to share in our webinar recap. They'll get you links to that series talking about the Inflation Reduction Act, direct pay, and bonus adder opportunities. There is indeed a lot of information there that I would recommend folks that are going that route just fully digest that and make sure that this is something that you're comfortable with. Please tell us what you do. What is your role? I am a solar installer. Do you provide funding, details, things? So Paul, I think we addressed that. And if not, I encourage you to reach out directly through the contact information that's in a later slide or through our contact us form. Let's see. James adds, oh, James is wonderful. So I just spoke with James the other day from Interfaith Power and Light in Massachusetts. And he just states that he totally agreed with your observations and approach. And he's been leading solar in Massachusetts for Massachusetts Interfaith Power and Light for 12 years. Is that all, Jim? We overcome the barriers by having 3 solar installer partners. So HOUS can get competitive bids and reliable companies, houses of worship, sorry, all those very formal abbreviations there. Connect those who are just starting with those who have done it. That's the idea of community, right, John and Lou? Getting communities of faith. We talked about, I mean, the title, it says going solar together. And we aren't talking about doing one giant solar project together, but rather uniting people in their commitment to renewable energy, to climate responsibility and care, and to sharing information with folks that we encounter in our daily lives, or volunteering with folks like John and Lou to do this work and to contribute to that greater cause, that greater effort. Thank you, James, for sharing that. Minimum loan limits have been an issue for loans previously. Has that changed? So we just designed this loan with the creation of the Inflation Reduction Act and direct pay. So for us, the minimum loan amount is $50,000. And that would be considerably lower than what I've seen in any other lending scenario. That doesn't mean I'm aware of all of them, but just from my personal experience. Going on to Paul's question, are details of loan or lease just presented on CollectiveSun website? So we have the details that we just went through, Paul, and then you can also reach out through the contact us form or to my contact information on that slide, and we can get you further details to address any questions that you have. Kurt, no, we do not have PPAs for your average house of worship. We have PPAs for projects that are $1 million and up. So if you have something in that ballpark, you could reach out to us or to me personally through CollectiveSun's contact us form. I know we've emailed each other before, so you can reach out to me directly on that as well. Is it true that a nonprofit can take advantage of both a grant and a tax credit? What a great question. So as we can all tell, Lou and John, the financing aspects of solar projects are overwhelming. I mean, people that are installers and do this every day, nonprofits, our house of worship, or the communities of faith that have joined us today. It's really a lot of information. So I certainly, we could probably have an entire hour just talking about tax benefits and then just keep rinse and repeating that for the next 23 hours in the day. And then we might get through everybody's questions. But yes, a nonprofit can take advantage of a grant and a tax credit. But Deanna, there are some situations where if you were going to fund that project with 100% grant funds, you would in essence then be ineligible for that direct pay tax rebate. I honestly encourage you to reach out to me directly so that we can look at the specific facts and circumstances around your question. And the thing that you would want to look at more closely is excessive benefit. You can research that as well, and I can help you with that personally. Eric is asking, have you created solutions using parking lot canopy mounting of solar panels? We absolutely have. Lou and John, any comments you want to add on canopy systems? We see lots of times where particularly communities of faith, they use more energy than they could possibly fit a solar system to accommodate on their roof, or their roof isn't oriented in the right manner, but they've got all this fantastic parking space. I'm going to zip it and let you guys comment on that.
Well, I'll just start by saying we've talked to lots of congregations because they do have parking lots that are unshaded, and the problem with that solution is the cost. There has to be an installation, a construction project in the parking lot, and it does add to the cost. But then sometimes we compare it to replacing a roof, and then it looks more viable to do a project like in the parking lot rather than on the roof. It's something that can easily be done, and places like in California, there are quite a few places that have canopies that are covered with solar, and it's a beautiful look, and it makes a lot of sense, and it protects everybody's cars, from the rain and all that and the sun. But it is more expensive. Yeah.
Yes. I want to add just one really exciting thought, just talking about canopy systems. So in parts of the country where virtual net metering is an option, Jim and I just talked about an exciting project with multiple communities of faith where they were going to do one installation in a parking lot, obviously using a canopy structure, and then they were going to share that energy. So it's a version of community solar that I don't know why, but I get so excited about that. It's really, to me, like the perfect solution, and it kind of embodies that faith in action. Like I love that combination. So yeah, there are definitely great opportunities for canopy systems. Al asks if under our management participation for churches, so this would be under the lease, do we assist install teams with evaluation of best system size to achieve best outcomes? And absolutely, we work with Lou and John, work with the installers, and talk about what's the goal for the percentage of offset on the system. Do we need to look at a larger system, a smaller system? Should energy storage be considered as well? And just determine what's the best scenario for that particular community of faith or any other nonprofit exploring solar. And of course, taking in to consideration regional costs of energy and costs of installation, what's going to make the most sense for that nonprofit to move forward with their renewable energy project. Let's see. So the process is, yes. So Paul, as an installer, if you find a church, a community of faith that's exploring solar, you would provide a PV proposal to our team at CollectiveSun, and we would model whatever pricing model your customer is interested in. So if the church is really looking for a loan, or they're very passionate about a lease, even if they don't know and you need to see both, we can do that as well. So you would just send the PV proposal to me directly and indicate what that financing mechanism is that they're interested in, and we'll get you some indicative pricing to present to them. We can support on that presentation to the congregation as well.
Mhm.
Is there a maximum EPC cost for a solar installer financed with CollectiveSun? A maximum? No, there's not a maximum EPC cost, but we do have commitments to the communities of faith that we're financing. So if your installation cost is so high and the avoided cost from adding the system is extremely low, it might lead to a scenario where that nonprofit is not going to start out on solid ground, meaning the costs that they're paying for their solar lease or loan. We don't want them in a position where that new payment exceeds those avoided costs. We want them to start out on solid footing, paying less than or equal to what they're paying today. So, no, we don't have a maximum cost for installation per se, but I mean, we got to look at that bigger picture and how the economics are going to work for the customer. All right, we've got a few more questions here. So if we have a church that wants solar and we can install the solar, we have a solar installer. I'm not sure, I'll have to look a little closer. If we have a church that wants solar and they
Read on down.
I think I'm missing a word there somewhere. But certainly reach out with your question directly, or reach out on the contact us form. We can schedule a time to discuss it so that I can get those details I'm missing. And I'm sorry, Joseph, for that. Oh, with a lease. You can install that. You would just need to be informed on what the pricing requirements are, and you would need to go through a vetting process. So, that's part of the value of working with a company like CollectiveSun that's going to be that third-party owner with a lease. The nonprofit is getting the benefit of our expertise, but also our requirements when it comes to vetting of an installer. So we can definitely share with you what that contract or application looks like, and give you an idea what we're looking for as far as vetting requirements. Do you provide financing for roof install and or other renewable energy related projects? So we do. Any PV solar installation, ground mount, roof mount, parking lot canopy, those are all perfectly acceptable. Also, energy storage can be included, and EV chargers could be included as well. But the goal, again, is to get a payment for that system that is in line with what the customer is currently paying. I'm sorry, John, look at you raising your hand. We're all done with questions, so you can run with it if you have something you'd like to say.
Yeah, I just you just now said it, Nicole. I don't think we had targeted this before, and that is that our goal always is to get that monthly output for power after the solar installation to be equal to or less than what the congregation is paying now on a monthly basis.
It's paramount. That's the goal. And I feel like it should be I'm sure it is for the congregation as well. I don't think folks are like, I can't wait to get a higher bill. So it's good to know that the program is in line, very likely with also of our nonprofit partners and the congregations that are on the call today. Next steps. So, if you're ready to get started with solar, Danielle, would you mind forwarding to that next slide for us, please? Thank you so much. So if you're ready to get started with solar, the next step for you is to reach out to Interfaith Solar Campaign, and you can do so either by waiting for us to send the recap and you can click on the link. But if you're so excited and you can't wait to get to their website, and I can see there are probably tons of folks that can't wait to do so. You can go to interfaithsolar.org, get started with solar, sign up. So interfaithsolar.org, or ARG. I don't think it will work for you. Get started with solar and then sign up. Again, that is for communities of faith that are starting out and they're ready to take that first step and get started with solar. And if you're ready to get started with financing, this would be for installers and developers looking for financing quotes, or you have questions about the financing products as an installer or developer, or communities of faith that are really far down the path already, and you're simply looking for a quote. You've already got an installer's bid to work with or chosen your installer's bid. The next step for you is going to be to reach out to CollectiveSun at collectivesun.com, contact us. And for folks that are ready for financing, I still strongly encourage you to be part of the Interfaith Solar Campaign movement and explore opportunities to support their vital work and their mission, and just go visit their website today and check out the amazing work that they're doing. Lou, John, any parting thoughts before we talk about the recap?
Well, I would just say as a career clergy person, and having worked with congregations for almost 50 years on various things, on occasions like this webinar, I always think back 45 years ago, when one of the first congregations that my wife and I served together decided in their remodel of the parsonage, the church-owned home, that they would install a solar hot water system. That's a long time ago. And, every once in a while, the 30 years after that, I'd hear about solar, churches doing solar in some way. But and then in 2010, we were able to do at one church in Eugene, a solar system. But to be at this place where we're moving beyond working with one congregation at a time, who hears about us through somebody's grapevine, to being able to have partners and be ready to work with networks of churches is amazing, and exactly what we need for the climate emergency that we're in, and the speed we're really being challenged to do this work at.
Well said. Lou?
Yeah, I just want to say to you all, thank you for being here and being interested in this. And I really encourage you to know, first of all, that this can be done. There are hundreds of churches around the country that have taken this step. And we are already leading a transformation in the energy economy. And the more of you that take the step and build a system on your church or house of worship, the greater chances we have for our children and grandchildren to be on this planet, after we're gone. This is serious stuff, but it can be done, and we want to be here. We started this effort. We're volunteering our time because we know we can help you get it done. So please reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you more, and thank you all for being here today.
Fantastic. Danielle, I just want to say thank you so much for creating our beautiful slide deck for today's presentation.
Yes.
Your work is greatly appreciated. We appreciate your contribution. We'll be sending out a webinar recap. If all goes according to plan, you'll receive the recap via email no later than end of business Friday. I think the goal is actually end of day today. The recap will include a recording of today's webinar presentation, a copy of the slide deck so that you have it for your own reference and so you can click through those links, and a Q&A transcript where we will have an opportunity to view the questions asked during today's Q&A session, along with the answers to those questions. So if there was an answer and maybe it came out fast, or in my case, I jumbled the words, you'll get a clear answer in that Q&A transcript. Thank you, John and Lou, for sharing your important work and mission of Interfaith Solar Campaign. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Have a great day.